writer of the Daily Star, Dawn Neeson, and the writer and academic Mo Lovett. Ladies, as always, good to see you. We're a bit pushed for time, so let's crack on. Dawn, take us to the front of the Independent. Cabinet ministers are keeping stum for once.
They are, absolutely. This is the Independent's exclusive today. They are obviously the ones that broke the Rishi Sunak's wife non-dom story. And they have, what they've done is they've gone to the 22 cabinet ministers and asked about their tax status, whether they have or have ever been non-dom. And just 5 ministers actually gave them an answer, which is interesting. The others just didn't comment at all. The 5 that did answer the question, Kwasi Kwarteng, Ben Wallace, Grant Shapps, Nadhim Zahawi and George Eustice, all of them said no, never use tax havens, never use non-dom status. Now, neither of those things are illegal, by the way. They are completely legal, but obviously it sounds a bit immoral when most of us are facing the biggest taxes in 70 years. So the cost of living for most of us is going up. So it's a very important independent investigation here, and it is curious that only 5 of them done so. Now, did you know, Neil, that in Norway, all tax returns are public record, so you can look up anybody's. You can look mine up and vice versa. Tax returns. So maybe that's the way to go in this country. What do you reckon?
Not a chance. No, let's just. I think it was a very un-British thing to do. Personal. Let's just keep my finances to myself. My mother would be the first one on there checking out exactly how much earned and complaining about the Christmas presents. Mo, take us to the front of the Times. Actually, this is a worrying development because for a long time now we have been asking, what would precipitate Russia dragging us into a conflict or even believing us to be involved in the conflict? Well, one thing that would do it, boots on the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you alluded to this earlier, Neil. I think it is an interesting story. I mean, for a bank holiday, we've had some scorching stories, but this is the story that officers from 2 battalions just outside Kyiv have reportedly been trained by British Special Forces, particularly in the use of British-supplied anti-tank missiles. The anti-tank missiles themselves were supplied in February, but the training officers were removed for precisely the reason you mentioned there, that it would bring us into direct conflict with Russia. It is important to say that the Ministry of Defence hasn't and won't confirm this story for obvious reasons, but it's not the first time the SAS has been training Ukrainian soldiers. That happened in 2014 during the invasion of Crimea, and obviously we know that the West has been supplying weapons, and there's a problem about whether or not Ukrainians are qualified to use them, if they're well trained enough. So this is a story that in actual fact this is what's been happening. As you say, everything about this war is worrying, and there's a lot of trepidation, and certainly we know that Moscow has written to Washington and said, can you stop supplying weapons? This on the basis that the United States has just sent, I think it's $800 million worth of new missiles to Ukraine. It's really tricky because, the Ukrainian people have been fighting for their sovereignty against this unjust invasion of their country. And of course, sovereignty is hugely important to us, and we want to, make sure Russia doesn't win. But like you say, precarious baby steps, I think, and that's why obviously the Ministry of Defence won't confirm the story.
Let us squeeze in one final story, Dawn, on the front of the Daily Star, a picture of Prince Harry by the looks of it. Just tell us what the story is.
Okay, very, very quickly. It's obviously Easter weekend. For most of the country, it's going to be fairly glorious weather, but warm water. But the RNLI have issued a warning that the sea is still very cold. The sea temperature is only 8 to 10 degrees, and officially it needs to be 15 to be warm. Who knew? And the RNLI is saying, be very, very careful. The water is so cold that you could literally die of shock. Basically, sharp intake of breath.
That's it.
Inhale sea water, and it only takes off the pint, evidently, Neil. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter. Lovely to see you. We've got to go.